All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another live coding video. In this one, I'm going to be talking about a front-end framework or library called Svelte. Um, so it's very similar to Vue. I haven't actually looked at the docs too much. So in this video, I just want to give you my first impressions of it. I'm going to kind of read through the tutorial, see if I can build out a really basic web application, and see how easy it is to just, with no knowledge, use this library and build something. And right before we get started, let me just tell you to please subscribe and click that bell icon if you want to keep seeing videos of web development and become a better web developer, because I'll be posting a lot of videos like this in the future. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. So let's look through the docs. And it looks like here they give you a command that you can run to kind of start up your Svelte project. So very similar to like the Vue CLI, where you can kind of create an entire project that's ready to go for you. I need to get rid of my git ignore file. Let me try running that again. Again, this is a live coding, so you're going to see a lot of issues, bugs, probably me scratching my head, being confused. So as that installs, oh, it's already done installing. That's pretty cool. You can run npm install, and it looks like it created a bunch of different files here. So we have a source file. We got a main file. It looks like it uses rollup to kind of compile all of your files together. For the most part, I mean, all this you don't really need to worry about. Someone else built it for us, so we're just going to be building on top of stuff that's provided for us, so we don't have to worry about all that. So let's look at an actual Svelte file. So if you've used Vue, you know how you have your .vue file extensions? Well, I guess they have .svelte extensions here. And the syntax looks pretty similar. Again, I don't really know what's going on here because I haven't actually read the docs, but it looks like here you can do string interpolation using just the single curly braces, and that's similar to React. Vue, you typically do like a double curly brace, so that's a little bit different. And it still looks like it's split into you got your scripts, you got a main block, and you got your style block. And yeah, it seems very, very similar to Vue, so far I like it. There's no complaints. Setting the project up was straightforward, and if this npm would finish installing, we could actually start playing around with it. So okay, it is done. All right, so it's done installing. Let's just go ahead and spin up whatever server that provide us. So it's probably bundling some stuff up, doing some stuff. Man, click to follow link. Awesome. There you have it. You have a local running Svelte app. Didn't take too much time to get that working. So let's move on to the tutorial, because again, this is the first time really using this framework, and it's going to be a trip. So if you are also new to it and you haven't heard about it before, watch through this video with me and maybe we can struggle together. So I'm not going to read all this stuff. I like to get to the meat and potatoes of tutorials and just give me the code. But if you want to read through all this stuff, feel free to. It looks like they're saying that you can use these curly braces for rendering out variables, and you can declare variables inside your script, and somehow behind the scenes your variables are accessible inside of your templates. So that's pretty cool. Let's click next. It looks like you can use those curly braces to kind of bring in the variables and put them in attributes. So that's identical to how React works. Nothing different about this. And a little side note, I work with React full time, and then I also use Vue just for fun on the side. So I wanted to use Svelte because people talk about it, they say it's nice, and I wanted to see, is it actually nice? What's the hype about? Looks like you can do shorthand attributes. So if you already have a variable called source, you could just do these curly braces here. So an example, let's just see if this works. Let class equal hello. You know what? Let me keep on reading the tutorial because I guess I don't know what I'm doing. So let's go a step further. Styling. Styling, it says everything inside the style is scoped. So that's cool. You don't have to add, you know how in Vue you can add like a scoped property here to make sure that the style is scoped to only the HTML that you have defined here. That's something to keep track of. Let me minimize this. We don't really care about the terminal right now. Let's get as much coding real estate as we can at this point. Okay. So let's just keep stepping through. I mean, nothing is too new yet. Importing other files. Okay, nested components. That's kind of new. So in Vue, this is identical to Vue. You basically import your Vue component from a file. So that is pretty straightforward. Nothing new there. And then you can use it by just calling it. Step through. What else is new? Looks like you can use the @ symbol if you want to just render HTML inside your. We're not going to be doing that because that's a security risk, and we don't really have a need for doing that right now. So let's see, making an app. Okay, blah blah blah. App. I don't care. This is all set up for us because we use the that install. Okay, reactivity. This is where it starts getting interesting. You can do click event handlers on your DOM elements, and that's going to call a function that you have defined in your script. So let's just go ahead and try that out. It looks like they're doing the typical increment example. So we go to our script tag and just paste that in. We should be able to call it. You know, we don't need all this style for right now. Just kind of getting in the way of this learning process. So we have a H1 here on click. You can call your click handler, and then in here, let's just render out the count. And this is very similar to Vue. Like in Vue, you'd actually do @click. So this is pretty identical. There might be a shorthand way to do that, but we'll see in a second. So now as I click this, notice that the count goes up. That's pretty awesome. It's pretty, the coding is a lot more minimal than using Vue or React in terms of, like, I kind of like how your state is just already, whatever variable you have declared up here is accessible in here. So that's kind of nice. It's user-friendly. All right, let's just keep going through the tutorial and see if we find anything awesome. So Svelte automatically updates the DOM when your component state changes. Often some parts of the component state needs to be computed from other parts. All right, we have reactive declaration. So this looks like a custom syntax that we have never seen before. They must do their own little syntax for doing computeds. Don't worry if it looks alien, it's valid. Okay, so I mean, you do have to learn a little bit new in terms of this library, like kind of implement their own language, I guess. But let's say it looks like it's a computed. So if you wanted to, let's say, double your count, you can actually use this down here. So instead of count, I could print out doubled. And now it should times by 2 every time I click it. So that's similar in Vue. There's like, I think you have computeds. There's like a computeds property you can use on your Vue components. And if you use like Vuex, that would be like a getter, which is something that's computed from your state. And then inside of React, I guess that kind of depends. I mean, in React, you just call a function, right? You can grab your stuff from state, call a function, and you get your computed. We use something called Cerebral.js with our front-end React component. So there's this concept of computeds in that framework as well. So this is important to know. Computeds are important. You need them. You use them a lot when you're building out your applications. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Let's just go next. Statements. Okay, so basically they're saying you could pretty much run whatever code you want, and this is going to run whenever count changes. So I guess this Svelte is smart enough to look at what variables you're using inside of this block, and then it's going to kind of rewatch. So it's kind of like a Vue watcher, or like an Angular watch, where it just reruns code when stuff changes. You could also put an if statement, right? Okay. I mean, yeah, it's just run statements. So any type of code that you want, it could run. So that's pretty cool. Updating arrays and objects. So it's triggered by assignments. Methods like push and splice won't automatically cause updates. So the gist of this is you can't just declare an array up here and then push something to it and expect it to update. Let's actually try that out. So in here, we're going to join some numbers. We don't really have numbers. So const numbers is equal to an empty array. In fact, let's just do let numbers. We don't need count. Don't need name. Okay, so all we want to do is just print out some numbers. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. How does this work? 1, 2, 3. It prints them out. Pretty straightforward. Now, the main thing I wanted to do is just verify that I can like add a number and have it change. So with their example, I can say numbers.push. I could push a number in it. And they're saying that this won't update. But it did update. I think it's because, oh, okay, reactivity. So I need to like, I think they're saying like if I did this in a timeout and I tried to push something into it, it's not going to actually update the DOM. Let's say after 5 seconds or half a second. So in order to actually have it update your DOM, you have to set numbers equal to itself. And there it shows up after, let me do after a second. So notice when the app first loads, it takes a second and then the 4 gets appended. So that's interesting. That's kind of new. In Vue, you have like, you know, money sign dot set or whatever. But I guess this hash actually listens to when the variables are set again. And then, of course, you could just make sure you can do like the string concatenation stuff. You can use similar patterns to replace pop, shift, unshift, and splice. Okay. Well, it would be nice if they gave examples of how you can do these different things. It looks like they only give you how to append a number to the end of the list. But I think the ultimate idea is, as long as you're on the left-hand side, you're just setting something equal to something else again. And it looks like it works the same way for like internal things. Let's see, the simple rule of thumb. The name of the updated variable must appear on the left-hand side of the assignment. For example, this. Won't update references to object foo bar unless you follow it up with object of object. Let's try that out because I'm not sure I truly understand that. Let's make an object called foo. Object.foo. Where's object? Const foo is equal to object.foo. Well, we don't have an object. So make one. We have an object called object with a foo property. This is set to bar. And what happens if we try to print this out? Object.foo. What will print out here? Nothing prints out. Object foo bar. I think we're getting some errors. Let me actually inspect my console down here. Not create property of bar on string high. What? So this is equal to an object that has a property foo, which is equal to a string. Let me comment this stuff out and see what's going on here. Okay, so I'm rendering out this, and they're saying in this tutorial, the name of the updated variable must appear on the left-hand side of the assignment. For example, this won't update references to object.foo.bar unless you follow it up with object.object. Yeah, I'm not truly following that. Object.foo. Oh, of course that's not going to work. Hold on. I can't set a string equal to an object. Ooh, okay, so... let's do the same thing. Let's just do a timeout. This is a good way to verify stuff. So are they saying that I should be able to do foo is equal to var high? Bear with me. I'm just playing around with stuff right now. So const object.foo is equal to you know what? I don't really know. We'll figure it out later. Let's just move on. Props. Okay, so passing props into a component. So typically you have nested components in like Vue or React where you can pass properties in. And it looks like in Svelte you can pass in props like so. You basically in your nested component you have to have an export. So that allows you to like bring stuff in as a prop and use it inside your component. And then you pass it in like you normally do in React, where you just do the property name equals some variable or some number. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing too special about that. It is kind of strange that it's called export, but it's really like importing a property. So not sure that was a good name for it. Export let answer. I guess it is. Well, it's more like a... I don't know if export was a good name for it. I mean, they're probably using like ES6 exports behind the scenes and then doing something with that, but it's more of like a parameter that's being passed in, a property passed in. So I don't know. But I mean, it makes sense. Makes sense to me. And you can default it, I guess, by just giving it equal sign. So let's just move on. You can do a splat. That's the same thing you do in React. Nothing special there. Oh gosh. Okay, now I'm not a big fan of this. Like we're going back to the year 2000 and doing mustache handlebars for conditional renders. I mean, let's try it out, but const show is equal to false. You might say, well, why don't you just use the this little editor thing here? Well, I don't want to. Not cool. I want to do it myself. All right, so if show, then we want to show, I'll say an H1. Hello. So right now the app should show nothing. If I change this boolean to true, it will show. So that's different from Vue. Usually in Vue you do like v if on your components, and in the React typically you do like show double ampersand and then render some logic here, or render your HTML. This is a little bit different. This is like throwing it back old school to like mustache handlebars. Probably get some getting used to. Anyway, else blocks. So that's another syntax you got to learn. If, else. Okay. So I mean, you just have to memorize this stuff. This is like, let me see, mustache. Is it mustache or handlebars where you do stuff like this? Bro. Yeah, it's kind of like this. Where you're doing like this logic to determine if you should show something or not. Not a big fan of that, honestly. That's kind of a big turnoff. But hey, maybe it just takes getting used to. Anyway, let's just keep going. Click next. Multiple conditions can be chained together like this. If, else. Okay. I mean, it's just like normal JavaScript, so. You need to loop over lists of data you can use in each block. Oh, God. Each cat as cats. I mean, this all makes sense, like, but coming from JSX, like I do React full time, coming from JSX JSX, it just makes much more sense. Even Vue makes more sense than Angular. Like, put the directive on the actual component. This stuff, I'm just not a fan of. I'm really just not a fan of it. But, no, it could be one of those things you just have to keep using to get used to. Okay, but I get the gist of it. Key each thing. So key to each blocks. When you modify the values of each block, it will add or remove items at the end of the block and update any values have changed. That might not be what you want. This is basically keys, I believe. So like in React and Vue, you need to typically bind your loop inner element with a key so that the underlying system knows what DOM element is linked to what data attribute. So I think that's pretty much what they're getting out here. You just, after each loop, you just add in a key. Await blocks. Makes it easier to deal with await blocks of promises directly in your markup. Await promise. Yikes. I don't think I'd ever actually do this. Like, I would not. I'd much rather have it be in my script and just change different scope variables, like waiting true, waiting false, or something like that. Not a fan of that, but hey, it's there. You can use it. I just it's a good practice to never put logic in your views. Like, don't put too much logic in your views. And if you're doing like awaits on promises inside your views, you're gonna run into issues. I'll tell you right now. Your view should pretty much just check simple variables of your store or your state, and that's it. Like, you shouldn't be doing like awaits and stuff, I don't think. It just makes it harder to test your actual components. All right, so you can do HTML events on mouse move. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. You can declare event handlers like this. Yeah, I would never recommend doing that. Like, just declare a function up here. But I guess it's good to know that you can do that. DOM event handlers can have modifiers that alter the behaviors. So this is similar to Vue, where you can do like .prevent or .whatever. I think .once is one of them, so that's nothing new there. Dispatching events. Okay, so this is how you'd probably get a subcomponent to talk to a parent component. Dispatch say hello. All right, show me this stuff. On message, handle message. That calls an alert. And this is the inner component or something. Yeah, this is inner Svelte. You pass it a callback. On message, handle message. Create event dispatcher. Okay, so it doesn't look like you can bind to individual messages. You just have a generic message handler, and then inside here you'd have your if or switch statement to figure out what event was propagated up, and then you do something else with that. So I guess that's what your create event dispatcher is for. It's for dispatching events up the component tree. If I'm understanding that correctly. Unlike DOM events, component events don't bubble. Okay, yeah, so you basically just need to, let's say you have three components, A, B, and C, in like that nested order. You need to keep on listening and dispatching up the tree, but bless me, sneezed. Let's see what they're saying here. Let me just read this one more time. We have the same app Svelte and inner Svelte as the previous chapter, but now there is an outer Svelte component that contains an inner. One way we can solve the problem is adding a create event dispatcher, the outer listening for messages. Okay, but that's a lot of code, so Svelte gives us equivalent shorthand. An on message event directive without a value means forward all messages. Okay, so I guess if you don't actually want to listen to the messages from a nested component and just want to bypass it and go straight up to a parent, you can do that by just not giving it a value for the props. Okay. Bindings. Um, This is, I think, like two-way bindings. I wouldn't even recommend doing that. You should always just go down and prop back up. But let's see. Everything is a string in the DOM. That's unhelpful when you're dealing with numeric inputs, type number and type range. Bind value. Svelte takes care of this for you. Okay. Checkboxes. Buttons, grouping inputs. Okay, I mean, I think we've learned enough to actually try to build something. So I'm going to try... How much time do I have? So I'm actually going to try to build something now. Like, we'll come back and refer to the tutorial, but I actually want to just try to see what I can do with this. So what we want to build is, I just want to build a really simple app where it has 8 buttons, and each of those buttons represents like water intake, right? You're supposed to drink 8 cups of water a day or something like that. So I want these buttons to be toggle buttons. I can click on them throughout the day, and as I'm clicking through them, the goal is to get all 8 of those buttons enabled. So to do that, I think it would make sense to first make a button component. Let me get rid of all this. Save it. So I'm going to say water button. Make that a Svelte component. And I don't know how to scaffold out using Emmet script yet. I have to Google that. But basically what this component needs to do is just contain a button that I'll do like a picture of water in a second, but it's just going to have a button that says water. And what I could do is add a class to it. You know, one thing I did not see was dynamic classes. How do we do dynamic classes? Text areas. Yo, is there like an actual... Here we go. Oh, wow. So there's a lot of stuff in this tutorial. Good thing I stopped early because I'm not going to go through all that stuff. But I think we covered enough that we can actually like learn something. So I'm assuming they have something about classes. I mean, you could probably just bind the class property to a scope variable. Right? Right? Custom CSS. The class directive. Class active. So if current is equal to foo, ternary. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could just bind the class to whatever you want, I believe. But I wonder if there's anything shorthand. Class big is big. Like, can you add multiples of these? I mean, how do you add multiple classes? We'll figure that out later. Anyway, so one thing we can do here is I'll just say, how do they do that? The class and the name of it. Drink equals drink here. Oh, it looks like there's a shorthand here. So let drink is equal to false. So I'm adding a class that will be added if it's drank or not. And if it is drank, I will say background color is blue. Otherwise, the button is just going to have a background color of white. We'll say padding of 10 pixels. Font size of 24 pixels. Save that. See what happens. Nothing happens because I did not import it yet. So inside my script, the import water button from water button dot svelte. Gosh. I will say I'm not a fan of the name of this framework. Like, it's not very marketable. Like throughout my entire life, I've never heard of that, what this word is. Like, this is like an SAT, like super deep level word that I've never heard of, but they named their framework that, so that's unfortunate in my opinion. But we have that component being imported here, and we render it, and when I click it, I need to have it do something. So here I could say on click, I'm going to say drank. I'll make a function called drank here, and this will just make drank equals to true. In fact, I should probably just do this to negate it. Is drink. You know, I'll call it drink. That's not confusing. So when you click it, you drink it, which makes it become true. This will be easier. And then is drink will be the value that we check to see if we add the class drink to it. So that's that. So I click on it. That scope boolean variable turns true. The class gets added. The button becomes blue. And we should probably make the text white and border radius 50%. Yeah, looking good now, right? Not really. Let me do 100%. It needs to be 50%. I think it's because the width and the height wasn't actually like... Cool. So, the second thing is we have the need to render out 8 of these, right? Remember I mentioned we need to have 8 of these water buttons? Well, one thing that you can do is you could do in each. If I can remember all this, you could say each water in waters, maybe? I don't remember what it was. So I'm going to have to go back to this tutorial and figure out how to do iteration. Where is iteration? Each blocks. Each slash each. Cats as cat. Cats. Okay, so it's waters as water. And we don't have a waters defined, so let me declare one. And I'm just going to make it a new array of 8 elements. And I'll just fill it with empty objects for right now, I guess. I don't know. Cool, so it rendered out a bunch of these bad boys. I can click on them independently. And that's cool, except for the only issue is that they are in their own little divs. I'm going to say display inline block. And that did absolutely nothing to them. So now we got to figure out why. Main. They're all wrapped in a main for some reason. Yo, why are there so many of these? There's something I'm not understanding about this. So let's go back to the looping. And maybe I'm not even supposed to have a main there. Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to have a main. I don't know why it gave me that, because I I'm pretty sure I created this app using their CLI, and that gave me something that had main in it. So I'm not sure what happened there. If anyone knows, let me know. I'll find out later. But anyway, we have all of these buttons. Let's add some margin right to them, so they're not so like bunched up together. That's kind of weird that it did that. And then inside here, we could say ID of wrapper. And we're just going to render those buttons inside of a wrapper where the wrapper has a text align center. Maybe that'll make them all become centered. Cool. Yeah, so throughout the day, you'd have this opened up and you can just click on your waters as you're drinking them. And at the end of the day, you just come back and check, okay, I drank all 8 of them. Or I forgot to drink 2. Well, I can't unclick them. So, you know, maybe I should go back and just make this negate. I can click on or off. Probably be nice if you have a pointer. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a main goal. I kind of achieved what I wanted, just to be able to render a list out, some buttons that you can click on and toggle them on and off. I could probably import like Font Awesome and actually put like a water droplet icon. In fact, I mean, I guess I could. I don't know. I think that was a good overview. I like a good dive in to understand like some of the basic building blocks of Svelte. There's like so much more that was in their docs. Like if you click on this drop down, like look at all this stuff. You got slots, which is the same in Vue. You got your stores, you got your life cycle events, all that jazz. I would like to spend more time looking into how you can do a centralized state or store. Some stuff I want to look at is why was main there? Remember there was like a main. I think that was just, I copied the wrong file probably. So, but in your templates, so usually in Vue you have like a template, your DOM element tag or whatever, and you have your HTML inside that. In this case, your HTML is just kind of chilling down here by itself. Not sure how much I like that. It's kind of nice to be able to know, but instead it's like all your HTML just needs to be at the bottom. Yeah, so I mean, it's very similar to Vue, but at the same time, it's not. It's almost like they pick and choose some, they pick some of the best and stuff from like React. And then they did some stuff like this, which is like, maybe I'm just not used to it. So it's kind of like, I feel like it's nasty, but this just reminds me of like Mustache or Handlebars, like a templating language where I thought we moved away from that. And this is a step backwards towards that. Maybe there's benefits to that. Who knows? Maybe I'm just being pessimistic. Pessimistic? Is that the word? Anyway, yeah, I mean, let me know your thoughts on Svelte. Let me know your thoughts on this video. If there's something more I should have covered. Honestly, I'm not going to go through this entire docs and explain it for you. Like, that's too much. It'd probably take me like 2 hours. But go through this yourself, read through it, learn it. I need to do that. There's a lot of stuff here. A lot of new stuff that I'm not used to or that I haven't used in a long time. But so far, I mean, it seems pretty nice. It seems fast. There's certain things that happen when the app loads that I'm kind of like sometimes these will render with like just buttons and the style comes later. I don't know why that was happening, but yeah, I might do another video of this where I'm actually like hitting a database and doing more advanced logic and stuff, but I think this was a really good opportunity for me to just learn something new. And if you're learning it new with me, I hope watching me struggle with making something simple was fun. All right, be sure to subscribe if you thought this was useful or entertaining, or don't subscribe if you didn't. And if you have any feedback of new ideas or projects I should work on, be sure to leave me a comment. All right, thank you for watching, and that was my little Svelte initial look through.